I was standing in the back of the church, smoothing down my lavender dress for what felt like the 100th time, when a woman with a clipboard and a tight smile walked straight up to me. She looked me up and down, glanced at her papers, and said the words that would shatter everything I thought I knew about my relationship with my son. "Excuse me, ma'am. The bride has requested that you sit in the third row." I just stared at her. For a moment, I thought I'd misheard. The organ music was playing softly in the background. Guests were filing in, and I could smell the roses that decorated every pew. Everything felt surreal, like I was watching myself from outside my own body. "I'm sorry," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "There must be some mistake. I'm the mother of the groom." She looked uncomfortable now, shifting her weight from one foot to the other. "Yes, I know who you are. But those are the instructions I was given. The bride would like you to sit in row 3. Before I dive deeper into what happened next, I need to ask you something. If you're here listening to my story, if you've ever felt invisible or unappreciated by someone you love, please hit that like button. Leave a comment telling me if you've experienced something similar. And subscribe, because I promise you, this story gets much more intense. Your support through Super Thanks helps me keep sharing these real-life experiences. Now, let me tell you exactly what happened at my son's wedding. I looked past the coordinator, my eyes scanning the front of the church. There, in the first row on the groom's side, sat Jessica's mother. She was wearing a cream-colored dress that probably cost more than my car payment, her hair perfectly styled, a corsage pinned to her chest. She looked like she belonged there, like she had every right to that seat. And I was being told to sit in the third row. "But that's where the mother of the groom sits," I said, and I hated how my voice cracked. "The front row. That's where I should be." The coordinator touched my arm, her voice dropping lower. "Ma'am, please. People are starting to notice. Can you just take your seat? The ceremony is about to begin." She was right. People were noticing. I could feel their eyes on me. The whispers had already started. I saw my sister Carol 3 rows back, her face twisted with confusion and anger. I saw Jessica's relatives watching with what looked like satisfaction, like they'd been expecting this, like I was just some problem that needed to be handled. My hands were shaking. 28 years. That's how long I'd been Ethan's mother. 28 years of sacrifice, of love, of putting him first in every single decision I made. And now I was being shuffled to the back like I didn't matter, like I was just another guest. I need to tell you how we got here. Because this moment, this humiliation, it didn't come out of nowhere. This was the culmination of something that had been building for 2 years, and I'd been too blind to see it. Or maybe I'd seen it and just didn't want to believe it. My son Ethan came into this world 28 years ago, and 3 years after that, his father walked out. Just like that. No warning, no explanation that made any sense. Richard left me with a toddler, a mountain of debt, and a choice: fall apart or fight. I chose to fight. I worked as a nurse during the day, pulling 12-hour shifts that left my feet swollen and my back aching. Then I'd pick up Ethan from daycare, feed him dinner, help him with his homework when he got older, tuck him into bed, and head out to waitress at a diner until 2 in the morning. I'd come home, sleep for maybe 4 hours, and do it all over again. There were times I was so tired I would cry while driving home, just because I didn't know how I was going to make it through another day. But I never let Ethan see that. Never. To him, I was strong. I was capable. I was the mom who showed up to every soccer game, even if I had to leave work early and lose those hours. I was the mom who made his birthday cakes from scratch, even when I could barely afford the ingredients. I was the mom who sat at the kitchen table with him every night, helping him with math problems I had to relearn myself. When he was 14, he needed new cleats for soccer. Good ones, because he was getting serious about the sport and the coach said he had real potential. Those cleats cost $85. I wore shoes with holes in them for 6 months so he could have those cleats. He never knew that. He just knew his mom got him what he needed. We had our own little traditions, our inside jokes. Every Sunday morning, we'd make pancakes together. He'd always add too much vanilla extract, and they'd taste a little off, but I'd eat every bite and tell him they were perfect. On long drives, we'd play this game where we'd make up stories about the people in other cars. He'd come up with the wildest scenarios, and I'd laugh until my sides hurt. When he graduated high school, he gave a speech. He stood up there in his cap and gown and he said, "Everything I am, everything I've accomplished is because of my mom. She showed me what real strength looks like. She showed me that love isn't just a feeling, it's a choice you make every single day." I cried. God, I cried so hard that day because I felt like everything had been worth it. Every missed meal, every sleepless night, every sacrifice I'd made, it all meant something. He got into a good university, a really good one. But the financial aid wasn't enough. It was never enough. So I took out loans. I picked up a third job on weekends. I sold my wedding ring, the one piece of jewelry I'd kept all those years. I sold my grandmother's pearl necklace, the only thing of value I owned. I told Ethan the ring had been lost because I didn't want him to feel guilty. I wanted him to focus on his studies, on building the future he deserved. And he did. He graduated with honors. He got a job at a tech company making more money in his first year than I'd made in 5. He called me crying the day he got the offer, and he said, "Mom, I'm going to take care of you now. I promise. Everything you did for me, I'm going to pay it back." I told him he didn't owe me anything. But in my heart, I won't lie, it felt good to hear. It felt good to know that he saw my sacrifices, that he appreciated them. For a few years, everything was perfect. He'd come visit every weekend. We'd cook dinner together, watch movies, talk about his work and his life. He was generous, always trying to give me money, take me out to nice restaurants. I didn't need much, but I loved spending time with him. That was all I wanted. Just my son, the person I'd built my entire life around, choosing to be with me. Then 2 years ago, he brought Jessica home. I remember the exact moment I met Jessica. It was a Sunday afternoon in October, and Ethan had called me that morning with excitement in his voice that I hadn't heard in a while. "Mom, I'm bringing someone over for dinner tonight. Someone really special. I think you're going to love her." My heart did this little flip. My son was in love. After years of casual dating, of relationships that never seemed to go anywhere, he'd found someone who made him happy. I spent the entire day cooking his favorite meal, lasagna with the recipe his grandmother had taught me. I cleaned the house top to bottom, put fresh flowers on the table, made sure everything was perfect. I wanted to make a good impression. I wanted this girl, whoever she was, to see that Ethan came from a loving home, that he had a mother who cared. They arrived around 6. The moment Jessica walked through my door, I knew she came from a different world than us. She was beautiful, I'll give her that. Tall, with honey blonde hair that fell in perfect waves, wearing designer jeans and a cashmere sweater that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. Her purse had a little logo on it that I recognized from magazine ads. Everything about her screamed money. "Mom, this is Jessica," Ethan said, and his face was glowing. He looked at her the way he used to look at me when he was little, and I'd surprise him with his favorite ice cream, like she was the center of his universe. "It's so nice to finally meet you," I said, reaching out for a hug. Jessica gave me one of those stiff, one-armed hugs where she barely touched me, and I could feel her body pull away almost immediately. But I told myself I was reading too much into it. Some people just aren't huggers. We sat down in my living room, and I offered them drinks. I'd bought a nice bottle of wine, something the woman at the liquor store had recommended. Jessica took one sip and set it down, and I didn't see her touch it again. "This house is so cozy," she said, looking around. The way she said cozy made it sound like something else, like small or cramped or not good enough. But she was smiling when she said it, so again I told myself I was being paranoid. "Thank you," I said. "It's not much, but it's been home for us for a long time." "How long have you lived here?" she asked, and there was this curiosity in her voice that felt more like an examination than genuine interest. "About 23 years now. I bought it right after my divorce. It was all I could afford at the time, but Ethan grew up here. Every room has memories." Jessica nodded slowly, her eyes traveling over my worn couch, the pictures on the walls in mismatched frames, the carpet that was clean but clearly old. I could see her taking it all in, cataloging everything. "Well, you must be so proud of Ethan for making something of himself." The words landed wrong. Making something of himself. As if what we'd had here wasn't already something. As if the life I'd built for us was just a starting point to escape from. Ethan didn't seem to notice. He was too busy watching Jessica with adoring eyes, holding her hand, laughing at everything she said. Dinner was worse. I'd worked so hard on that lasagna, but when I served it, Jessica took the tiniest portion I'd ever seen. She pushed it around her plate more than she ate it. "Is everything okay?" I finally asked. "Is it not to your taste?" "Oh no, it's fine," she said quickly. Too quickly. "It's just that my mother always uses organic ingredients. Fresh herbs from her garden. San Marzano tomatoes imported from Italy. Once you've had the real thing, it's hard to go back, you know?" I felt my cheeks burn. My lasagna, the one Ethan had loved his entire life, the one he'd requested for every birthday dinner, was suddenly not the real thing. "Mom's lasagna is the best," Ethan said, but his voice lacked conviction. Like he was saying it because he knew he should, not because he believed it. The evening continued like that. Jessica would make these little comments, these observations that sounded innocent on the surface but felt like tiny cuts. When I mentioned that I'd just gotten a new car, she said, "Oh, how practical." When I talked about the vacation I was planning to Florida, she said, "I've never been to Florida. My family usually goes to the Amalfi Coast or the Maldives." When I showed her pictures of Ethan growing up, she barely glanced at them before saying, "You should really get these digitized. Printed photos are so outdated." But the worst part wasn't Jessica's comments. The worst part was watching my son. He laughed when she made those remarks. He nodded along. When she told a story about a restaurant where dinner for two cost $500, he didn't flinch. He just said, "We should go back there soon. $500. I'd fed us both for a month on less than that." After they left that night, I sat in my kitchen for a long time, staring at the leftovers. 3/4 of the lasagna remained, and I wondered what I'd done wrong. But I pushed those feelings down. I told myself I was being sensitive. I told myself that Jessica was probably nervous, trying to impress me in her own way. I told myself that as long as Ethan was happy, that's all that mattered. I was wrong. Over the next few months, things started to change. Ethan's Sunday visits became less frequent. First, it was every other week, then once a month, then random, unpredictable. When I asked about it, he'd say, "Jessica and I had plans," or "Jessica's family is having a thing." Jessica's family. I heard about them constantly. Her father who owned some kind of investment firm. Her mother who sat on charity boards and hosted galas. Her brother who'd gone to Yale. They lived in a house with 7 bedrooms. They had a boat. They vacationed in places I couldn't pronounce. And slowly, I watched my son start to feel ashamed of where he came from. One night, about 6 months after I'd met Jessica, I called Ethan just to chat. I hadn't talked to him in over a week, and I missed his voice. Jessica answered his phone. "Oh, hi, Mrs. Patterson," she said, and I could hear noise in the background. Music, laughter, conversation. "Ethan's busy right now. We're at a dinner party. I can call back later," I said. "Just tell him I called." "Sure thing," she said brightly. Then, before she hung up, I heard her say to someone else, "It was his mom." She calls a lot. She said it like it was a problem, like I was some clingy, overbearing mother who couldn't let go. I called less after that. I didn't want to be a burden. I didn't want Ethan to feel like I was holding him back from this new, exciting life he was building with Jessica. The real turning point came about a year into their relationship. I invited them both over for Thanksgiving. It was just going to be the 3 of us plus my sister Carol and her husband. Nothing fancy, just family. Traditional. Turkey, stuffing, the works. Jessica showed up in a white designer dress. To Thanksgiving dinner. She looked around at my small dining room, at the folding table I'd set up to accommodate everyone, at the mismatched chairs, and I saw something flicker across her face. Disappointment, maybe, or pity. Throughout dinner, she barely ate again. She kept checking her phone under the table. When Carol asked about her family, Jessica launched into this elaborate description of their Thanksgiving at their country club, with a professional chef and a string quartet. "Next year, Ethan and I will probably go there instead," she said casually. "My mother has already asked us to join them." Ethan nodded, just nodded, like it was already decided, like he hadn't spent every Thanksgiving of his life with me. After dinner, I was in the kitchen washing dishes when I heard Jessica's voice from the living room. She was on the phone and she wasn't bothering to whisper. "I know, Mom. It's very quaint, very blue collar, but Ethan's moved past all that now. He's building a different life. With me. Blue collar. She said it like it was dirty. Like the fact that I'd worked with my hands, that I'd served people, that I'd done honest work to raise my son was something to be embarrassed about. I stood there with my hands in the soapy water, feeling something inside me crack. Ethan came into the kitchen a few minutes later, and I turned to him. "Did you hear what Jessica said?" He looked uncomfortable. "She didn't mean anything by it, Mom. She just comes from a different background." "A different background," I repeated. "Ethan, she's ashamed of us, of me. Can't you see that?" "You're being dramatic," he said, and his voice had an edge to it I'd never heard before. "Jessica loves me. She's helping me build a future, a real future. Can't you just be happy for me?" That was the moment I realized I was losing him. Not all at once, but slowly, piece by piece. Jessica was pulling him into her world, and there was no room for me there. I was the past, the reminder of struggle and poverty and everything he was trying to leave behind. But I loved my son. So I swallowed my hurt, forced a smile, and said, "Of course I'm happy for you." I should have fought harder then. I should have made him see what was happening. But I didn't, because I thought love would be enough. I thought our bond, built over 28 years of sacrifice and devotion, would be stronger than whatever spell Jessica had cast over him. I was wrong about that too. The engagement happened on a Tuesday night. I know because I was working a late shift at the hospital, and when I got home around 11, exhausted and ready to collapse into bed, I saw that I'd missed 3 calls from Ethan. My heart jumped into my throat the way it always does when you're a mother and you see missed calls. Something must be wrong. He must need me. I called him back immediately, my hands shaking as I pressed his name. "Mom, hey," he said, and he sounded happy. Not distressed, not upset. Happy. "Sorry for all the calls. I have news. Big news." "What is it, honey?" I asked, sinking onto my couch, relief flooding through me. "I proposed to Jessica tonight. She said yes. We're getting married." I should have been thrilled. I should have screamed with joy, asked a million questions, demanded to hear every detail of the proposal. But all I could think was, he proposed, and he's telling me over the phone. This moment, one of the biggest moments of his life. And I'm hearing about it the same way I'd hear about a promotion at work or a new restaurant he tried. "Mom? Are you there?" "Yes," I said quickly, forcing enthusiasm into my voice. "Yes, sweetheart, that's wonderful. I'm so happy for you. Congratulations. We talked for maybe 10 more minutes. He told me he'd taken Jessica to the restaurant where they had their first date, that he'd hidden the ring in a champagne glass, that she'd cried when she saw it. He sounded so excited, so in love, and I tried to match his energy. I really did. "When can I see you both?" I asked. "We should celebrate. I'll take you out to dinner, or you can come here, or whatever you want." "Yeah, definitely," he said. "Things are going to be crazy with wedding planning, but we'll figure something out soon." Soon turned out to be 3 weeks later, and only because I kept pushing. When they finally came over, Jessica had a binder. An actual 3-ring binder filled with magazine clippings, fabric swatches, and printed Pinterest boards. She sat on my couch and flipped through it like she was giving a business presentation. "We're thinking next June," she said. "Outdoor ceremony at the Botanical Gardens. Reception at the Grandview Estate. We've already put down a deposit." "That sounds beautiful," I said. And then, carefully, because I didn't want to overstep, I added, "I'd love to help with the planning. Whatever you need. I'm here." Jessica looked up from her binder and smiled. It was the kind of smile that didn't reach her eyes. "That's so sweet of you to offer." But actually, my mom has already taken charge of everything. She lives for this kind of thing. She's already hired a wedding planner, booked the venue, lined up caterers. It's all under control. "Oh," I said, trying to hide my disappointment. "Well, maybe I could help with some of the smaller things. Addressing invitations or helping with favors or—" "We're hiring a calligrapher for the invitations," Jessica interrupted gently. "And the wedding planner handles all those details. Honestly, you don't need to worry about a thing. Just show up and enjoy the day. Just show up." Like I was a distant relative instead of the mother of the groom. I looked at Ethan, waiting for him to say something, waiting for him to insist that his mother should be involved in planning his wedding. But he just sat there, nodding along, his hand on Jessica's knee. "That does sound easier," he said. "You work so much, Mom. This way you don't have to stress about anything." I wanted to scream that I wanted to stress about it, that I'd been dreaming about my son's wedding since the day he was born, that I'd imagined us picking out flowers together, tasting cakes, debating over color schemes. But instead, I just smiled and said, "Whatever makes you both happy." Over the next few months, I was systematically excluded from everything. I found out they'd chosen the venue when Jessica posted pictures on Instagram. I learned about the color scheme, blush pink and gold, from a Facebook post. When I asked Ethan about the guest list, he said Jessica and her mother were handling it, and he'd make sure my side of the family got invitations. "How many people can I invite?" I asked. There was a pause. "Well, the venue has a capacity of 250, and Jessica's family is pretty big, so maybe 15, 20 at most. 15 people. Jessica's family was getting over 200 spots, and I was being given 15. "What about your father?" I asked, even though it hurt to bring him up. "Are you inviting him?" "No," Ethan said firmly. "I haven't talked to him in years." Why would I invite him? At least there was that. At least Richard wouldn't be there to see this. But the worst moment, the moment that truly broke my heart, came in March. I'd assumed, stupidly, naively assumed, that I would go wedding dress shopping with Jessica, or at least be invited. It's traditional, isn't it? The bride takes her mother and the groom's mother to help pick out the dress. It's supposed to be this bonding experience, this passing of the torch from one generation to the next. I was at work when I saw the Instagram post. Jessica had tagged it with a location at an upscale bridal boutique downtown. The photos showed her in a stunning white gown, surrounded by women I didn't recognize. Her mother, her bridesmaids, her sister, even her aunts, all of them holding champagne glasses, laughing, celebrating. The caption read, "Found my dream dress with my real family. Best day ever. Bride tribe, wedding vibes, for family first. My real family." She'd capitalized real. I sat in the break room, staring at that post, reading that caption over and over until the words blurred. My coffee went cold in my hand. Around me, other nurses chatted and laughed, but I couldn't hear them. All I could hear was the sound of my own heart breaking. I called Ethan that night. I tried to keep my voice steady, tried not to sound accusatory, but I couldn't help it. "I saw Jessica went dress shopping," I said. "Oh yeah," he said casually. "She found a great dress. You'll love it." "Ethan, why wasn't I invited?" Silence. Then, "She wanted to keep it small, Mom. Just her closest people." "I'm not one of her closest people. I'm going to be her mother-in-law." "It's not like that," he said, and I could hear the defensiveness creeping into his voice. "You're making this into something it's not. It was just a girl's day with her family and friends." "I could have been part of that," I said, and now I was crying. I couldn't help it. I should have been part of that. "Mom, please don't do this. Don't make Jessica feel bad. She didn't mean to exclude you. She just has her own way of doing things." "And what about your way?" I asked. "What about what you want? Don't you want your mother involved in your wedding?" "Of course I do," he said, but it sounded automatic, rehearsed. "You'll be involved. You'll be at the wedding. That's what matters." "That's not what I mean, and you know it." He sighed, that long, suffering sigh that said he was tired of this conversation. "Look, I have to go. Jessica and I are meeting her parents for dinner. Can we talk about this later?" "Sure," I whispered. "Later." But later never came. We never talked about it. I swallowed my hurt and tried to be supportive, tried to be excited, even as I watched from the sidelines while Jessica's family planned my son's entire wedding. 2 weeks before the ceremony, I found out I wasn't invited to the rehearsal dinner. My sister Carol called me, furious on my behalf. "Are you kidding me?" She practically shouted into the phone. "You're not going to the rehearsal dinner?" "It's just for the bridal party," I said weakly, repeating what Ethan had told me. "It's small and intimate." "Bull," Carol said. "I saw the Facebook event. Jessica's got her entire extended family coming. Cousins, aunts, uncles, family friends. But not you, not the groom's mother." I didn't know what to say. Because she was right, and we both knew it. The night of the rehearsal dinner, I sat alone in my house, eating leftover Chinese food, scrolling through social media posts of the celebration I wasn't invited to. There was Jessica, beautiful and radiant, surrounded by her family. There was Ethan, smiling and laughing, his arm around his future wife. There were toasts and speeches and love and joy, and I wasn't part of any of it. I'd raised that boy by myself for 25 years. I'd sacrificed everything for him. And now, on one of the most important weekends of his life, I was sitting alone, eating cold lo mein, wondering where everything had gone so wrong. That night, I barely slept. Tomorrow was the wedding. Tomorrow, I told myself, would be different. Tomorrow, I would stand beside my son. Tomorrow, I would be acknowledged and appreciated and included. I had no idea how wrong I was. I woke up at 5 in the morning on the day of my son's wedding. Not because I set an alarm, but because I couldn't sleep. I'd been tossing and turning all night, my mind racing with thoughts I couldn't shut off. Part of me was excited. After everything, after all the exclusion and hurt, this was still my son's wedding day. This was still one of the most important days of his life, and I was going to be there. I was going to watch him get married, watch him start this new chapter, and maybe, just maybe, things would be different after today. Maybe once the stress of wedding planning was over, Jessica would soften. Maybe we could build a real relationship. Maybe I could get my son back. I got ready slowly, carefully. I'd bought the lavender dress 3 months ago, spent more money than I probably should have, but I wanted to look nice. I wanted Ethan to be proud of me. I did my makeup with a shaking hand, had to redo my mascara twice because my eyes kept watering. I wasn't sure if it was from emotion or from the lack of sleep, but I forced myself to keep it together. This was a happy day. I was going to make it a happy day. Before I left, I stood in Ethan's old bedroom. I'd kept it mostly the same over the years, couldn't bring myself to change it too much. His soccer trophies still lined the bookshelf. His high school graduation photo hung on the wall. I picked up a framed picture from his nightstand, one of the two of us at his college graduation. We were both grinning, his arm around my shoulders, my hand on his chest. He'd just gotten his diploma, and the first thing he did was find me in the crowd and pull me into the biggest hug. "I did it, Mom," he'd whispered in my ear. "We did it." I traced my finger over his face in the photo, remembering that moment, that pure joy we'd shared. Where had that gone? When had we lost it? I put the picture down, grabbed my purse, and headed to the church. The ceremony was at 2 o'clock, but I arrived at 1:30. I wanted to be early. I wanted to see Ethan before everything started, give him a hug, tell him how proud I was, tell him I loved him. But when I got to the church, there were coordinators everywhere, all of them with the same clipboard and the same tight smile. And when I asked if I could see my son, I was told the groom was busy getting ready and couldn't be disturbed. "Can I at least send him a message?" I asked. "Can someone tell him his mother is here?" The coordinator looked at her clipboard like it held the answers to the universe. "I'll see what I can do," she said, and then disappeared. She never came back. So I waited. I stood in the lobby of the church, watching guests arrive, watching Jessica's family sweep in like they owned the place. Her mother, Victoria, arrived in a champagne-colored dress that probably cost more than my car, with a fascinator perched on her perfectly styled hair. She saw me standing there and gave me a small nod, the kind of acknowledgement you'd give a valet or a coat check person. Not warm, not welcoming. Just a nod that said, "I see you. You exist. That's all you need from me." My sister Carol arrived with her husband Tom, and the relief I felt seeing her face almost made me cry. She hugged me tight, whispered in my ear, "You look beautiful. Hold your head high." I tried. God, I tried. At 1:45, the coordinator who'd spoken to me earlier approached with another woman, presumably someone more senior. They both had that same practiced smile. "Mrs. Patterson," the senior coordinator said, "if you'll follow me, I'll show you to your seat." Finally. Finally, I was going to take my place. I was going to sit in that front row where the mother of the groom belongs, and I was going to watch my son get married. We walked down the side aisle of the church. The sanctuary was beautiful, I had to admit. White flowers everywhere, candles glowing, soft music playing. Jessica's mother was already seated in the front row on the bride's side, talking with what looked like her sisters. The front row on the groom's side was empty, waiting. But we walked past it. "Excuse me," I said, stopping. The front row is back there. The coordinator turned, and that's when I saw it. That uncomfortable expression. That, I really don't want to be doing this, look on her face. Mrs. Patterson, the bride has requested that you sit in the third row. And just like that, we're back to where I started this story. Back to that moment where everything I thought I knew about my relationship with my son came crashing down around me. I stood there, frozen. People were starting to notice. I could feel eyes on me, could hear the whispers starting. The coordinator was still smiling that tight smile, waiting for me to comply, to just nod and accept this humiliation and take my seat in the third row like a good, obedient woman who knew her place. There must be a mistake, I said, and my voice sounded strange even to my own ears, distant, hollow. I'm the mother of the groom. The mother of the groom sits in the front row. I understand, she said, her voice dropping lower, but those are the instructions I was given. The bride would like you to sit in row 3. Why? The word came out sharper than I intended. Why would she want that? The coordinator glanced at her colleague, clearly uncomfortable. I'm just following instructions, ma'am. If you could please take your seat, the ceremony is about to begin. I looked at that front row. It was completely empty. Not reserved for anyone else. Just empty. And I was being sent to the third row, behind people I didn't even know, behind family friends of Jessica's who'd probably met Ethan twice. In the bride's front row, I could see Victoria settling in, adjusting her fascinator, laughing with her sisters. She looked perfectly comfortable, perfectly at home in her position of honor, and I was being shuffled to the back. Something inside me snapped. No, I said. The coordinator blinked. I'm sorry? No, I won't sit in the third row. I'm his mother. I raised him. I'm sitting in the front row. I could feel the energy in the church shift. More people were watching now. The whispers were getting louder. The coordinator looked panicked. Ma'am, please, you're causing a scene. Can we just... I'm causing a scene. I felt my voice rising and I didn't care. I'm being told I can't sit in the front row at my own son's wedding and I'm the one causing a scene? My sister Carol was suddenly beside me, her hand on my arm. What's going on? She demanded. They want me to sit in the third row, I told her, and saying it out loud made it real. Made it impossibly, humiliatingly real. Carol's face went red. Are you kidding me? She's the mother of the groom. Those are the bride's instructions, the coordinator repeated helplessly. Then get the bride out here, Carol said. Get her out here right now and let her explain this to my sister's face. The coordinator looked like she wanted to disappear into the floor. I can't do that. She's getting ready. I don't care if she's walking down the aisle, Carol snapped. You get her out here or I'm going back there myself. But she didn't have to, because at that moment, like she'd been summoned by the sheer force of the drama unfolding, Jessica appeared. She came from a side door near the altar, still in her wedding dress, looking like something out of a magazine. The dress was stunning, all lace and silk and elegance, with a train that seemed to go on forever. Her hair was up, her makeup perfect, and she should have been the most beautiful bride I'd ever seen. But all I could see was the coldness in her eyes as she looked at me. Is there a problem? She asked, her voice sweet but her expression anything but. The coordinator started to speak, but I cut her off. Yes, there's a problem. Why can't I sit in the front row? Jessica tilted her head, like she was considering the question, like it was a perfectly reasonable thing to ask. Because I don't want you there. The words hung in the air. Simple, direct, cruel. Excuse me? I managed to say. You heard me, Jessica said, and now the sweetness was gone from her voice. This is my wedding day. Mine. And I want my family in the front row. My mother, my family, the people who matter to me. Not you. I felt like I'd been slapped. Around us, guests were openly staring now, some with their mouths literally hanging open. This was not how wedding days were supposed to go. This was not how people behaved at formal events. But here we were, in front of God and everyone. And Jessica was telling me I didn't matter. I'm Ethan's mother, I said, and I hated how my voice shook. I raised him. I sacrificed everything for him. I deserved to sit in that front row. Jessica laughed, actually laughed. It was a short, sharp sound that cut right through me. You deserve? Let me tell you what you deserve. You deserve to be grateful that I even let you come. Do you know what you are to me? You're a reminder of everything Ethan came from. The poverty, the struggle, the small, sad little life he had before me. Jessica, I started, but she wasn't done. I'm giving him everything you never could, she continued, taking a step closer to me. A real home, a real family, a real life. I'm elevating him, and the least you could do, the very least, is be grateful and sit where I tell you to sit and not make a scene on my special day. Tears were streaming down my face now. I couldn't stop them. 28 years. 28 years of love and sacrifice and devotion, and this is what it had come to. Being told I was an embarrassment. Being told I was something to be hidden away. You're cruel, I whispered. You're a cruel, heartless person. And you're pathetic, Jessica shot back, clinging to a son who's outgrown you. He doesn't need you anymore. He has me now. He chose me. Where is he? I looked around wildly. Where's Ethan? Does he know you're doing this? He knows exactly what I'm doing, Jessica said. He approved the seating chart. He signed off on everything. I felt the ground shift beneath me. You're lying. Am I? Jessica's smile was vicious. Why don't we ask him? She turned toward the same door she'd come from and called out, Ethan, come here, please. And he came. My son, my baby boy, appeared in his tuxedo, looking confused and worried. When he saw me crying, saw Jessica standing there with her arms crossed, saw the crowd of people watching, his face went pale. What's going on? He asked. Your mother is refusing to sit where she's been assigned, Jessica said calmly. She's making a scene. On our wedding day, Ethan looked at me, and I looked back at him, and in that moment, I was searching his face for the boy I raised. The boy who used to hold my hand when we crossed the street. The boy who used to tell me I was the best mom in the world. The boy who promised he'd always take care of me. Ethan, I said, my voice breaking, did you know about this? Did you know she was putting me in the third row? He couldn't meet my eyes. That told me everything I needed to know. It's just a seat, Mom, he said quietly. Just a seat. After everything. After every sacrifice, every sleepless night, every missed meal, every sold piece of jewelry. Just a seat. No, I said, it's not just a seat. It's where I belong. It's acknowledgement of who I am to you, of what I've done for you. Mom, please, he said. And now he looked desperate. Don't do this. Not today. Can't you just go along with it? For me? Jessica moved to his side, her hand possessive on his arm. It's me or her, Ethan, she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Choose. The church was completely silent now. Every single person was watching, waiting. This was the moment. This was where my son would either stand up for me or prove that I'd lost him forever. Ethan looked at Jessica, then at me, then back at Jessica, and I saw it happen. I saw him make his choice. Mom, he said softly, please, just sit where Jessica asked. I don't want to start my marriage with conflict. Can't you do this one thing for me? And there it was. After 28 years of me doing everything for him, he was asking me to do one more thing. Accept my humiliation, accept my place, accept that I no longer mattered. I looked at my son, really looked at him, and I didn't recognize the man standing in front of me. I stood there, looking at my son, and something inside me finally broke. Not broke like it had been breaking over these past 2 years. Little fractures and cracks that I kept trying to repair. This was different. This was complete. This was the moment I realized that no amount of love, no amount of sacrifice, no amount of holding on was going to change what was happening. My son had made his choice, and it wasn't me. After everything, I said, and my voice didn't shake anymore. It was steady now, clear. After everything I did for you, after every sacrifice I made, you're asking me to accept this. Mom, it's just. Don't say it's just a seat, I interrupted. Don't you dare say that to me again. Ethan flinched. Jessica's grip on his arm tightened, and I could see the satisfaction in her eyes. She was winning. She'd gotten exactly what she wanted. She'd isolated my son from me, turned him into someone I didn't recognize, and now she was getting to watch me break down in front of a church full of people. I looked around at all those faces watching us. Some looked uncomfortable, some looked sympathetic, some looked like they were enjoying the drama. I saw my sister Carol with tears running down her face. I saw Jessica's mother, Victoria, with a small smile playing at her lips. I saw the coordinator still clutching her clipboard like it was a life raft. And I realized something. I had a choice too. I could sit in that third row. I could swallow my pride, accept this humiliation, sit there and watch my son marry this woman who hated me. I could smile and pretend everything was fine. I could be grateful just to be in the room, just to be acknowledged at all. I could make myself smaller and smaller until I disappeared completely, until I became nothing more than a shadow in my son's life. Or I could choose myself. For 28 years, I had put Ethan first, before my own health, my own happiness, my own dreams. I had worked myself to exhaustion. I had gone without so he could have. I had sacrificed every single thing I could sacrifice because I loved him more than I loved myself. But love isn't supposed to destroy you. Love isn't supposed to make you invisible. And I suddenly understood that what was happening here wasn't about love at all. It was about control. It was about Jessica erasing me from Ethan's life. And my son was letting it happen. I reached up and unpinned the corsage from my dress. It was lavender roses, the same color as my dress. I'd bought it myself because no one had thought to get me one. The mother of the groom is supposed to get a corsage. It's tradition. But there were a lot of traditions being ignored today. I looked at that corsage in my hand, at the delicate flowers already starting to wilt in the heat of the church, and I thought about how perfect a metaphor it was. Something beautiful, dying slowly and nobody noticing. I walked to the front row, the one I'd been forbidden from sitting in, and I placed the corsage gently on the seat, right in the middle, a marker of where I should have been. I won't sit in the third row, I said, turning back to face Ethan and Jessica. I won't accept being treated like I don't matter, like I'm something to be ashamed of. Mom, Ethan started, but I held up my hand. I love you, I said, and I meant it. Despite everything, despite the hurt and the betrayal and the way my heart was shattering into 1,000 pieces, I meant it. I will always love you. You're my son. Nothing will ever change that. I took a breath, steadying myself. But I can't stay here. I can't watch you marry someone who hates me. I can't sit in a church and pretend that this is okay. Because it's not okay, Ethan. What you're doing to me, what you're allowing to happen, it's not okay. You're ruining everything, Jessica hissed. This is my wedding day and you're ruining it. I looked at her, really looked at her, and I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Not anger, not hurt, just clarity. No, I said calmly. I'm not ruining anything. I'm just refusing to participate in my own erasure. I turned to my sister. Carol, are you coming with me? She didn't hesitate. She grabbed Tom's hand and walked toward me, her chin up, defiant. Of course I am. Ethan took a step forward. Mom, wait. Please, don't go. Can't we just what? I asked. Can't we just pretend this didn't happen? Can't I just accept being disrespected and humiliated? Can't I just disappear so your wife doesn't have to look at where you came from? He didn't have an answer. He just stood there, looking torn, looking miserable, but not moving, not choosing me, not standing up to Jessica, not doing the one thing I needed him to do. I hope you're happy, I said softly. I really do. I hope she makes you happy. I hope this life you're building is everything you dreamed of. I started walking toward the exit. Carol and Tom flanked me on either side, their presence the only thing keeping me upright. My legs felt like they might give out any second, but I kept moving, one foot in front of the other. Behind me, I heard Jessica's voice, sharp and victorious. Good riddance. I heard gasps from the guests. I heard someone say, "Oh my God." I heard the coordinator saying something about getting everyone seated, trying to salvage what was left of the ceremony. And I heard Ethan call out, "Mom, wait." But he didn't follow. I kept waiting for the sound of footsteps behind me, for him to catch up to me, to choose me, to finally see what was happening. But those footsteps never came. I walked out of that church with my head held high, even though tears were streaming down my face. I walked out into the bright afternoon sunshine, and it felt surreal. The world was continuing like normal. Birds were singing, cars were driving past, the sun was shining, and I had just walked out of my only child's wedding. Carol helped me into her car. I couldn't drive. I couldn't even think straight. She drove me to a park, the same park where I used to take Ethan when he was little. There was a bench overlooking a pond where we used to feed the ducks. I sat on that bench and I broke down completely. Not quiet crying, not dignified tears. I sobbed. I wailed. I let out 28 years of pain and sacrifice and love and loss, and Carol just held me while I fell apart. "You did the right thing," she kept saying. "You did the right thing." But it didn't feel right. It felt like the worst thing I'd ever done. It felt like I'd just lost my son forever. The first week after the wedding, I didn't leave my house. I called in sick to work, which I never do. In 20 years of nursing, I'd maybe called in sick 5 times. But I couldn't face people, couldn't face their questions, their pity, their curiosity about what had happened. Carol brought me groceries. She sat with me while I cried. She didn't try to fix anything, didn't offer empty platitudes. She just stayed. I deleted all my social media apps. I couldn't bear to see the wedding photos that I knew would be posted. Couldn't bear to see my son looking happy without me there. Couldn't bear to read the comments from people who had no idea what had really happened, all saying, "Beautiful wedding and congratulations and so happy for you both." My phone stayed silent. No call from Ethan, no text, nothing. On day 8, Carol came over and found me still in my pajamas, sitting on the couch, staring at nothing. "Okay," she said, sitting down beside me. "I love you and I'm here for you. But you need to get up. You need to shower. You need to eat something besides crackers." "I can't," I whispered. "Yes, you can," she said firmly. "What happened was horrible. What he did was unforgivable, but you're still here. You're still alive, and you don't get to disappear just because he chose wrong." "He's my son," I said. "He's my whole life." "No," Carol said, taking my hands. "He was your whole life. And that's the problem. You gave him everything, and you kept nothing for yourself. You built your entire world around him, and now that he's gone, you don't know who you are." Her words stung because they were true. I'd spent 28 years being Ethan's mother. That was my identity. That was my purpose. And now what was I? 2 weeks after the wedding, I finally went back to work. People asked where I'd been, if I was feeling better. I just smiled and said I'd had a stomach bug. Nobody asked about the wedding. Maybe they'd heard what happened. Maybe they were being kind. I didn't know and I didn't ask. On day 15, my phone buzzed with a text message. My heart jumped, thinking it might be Ethan. But it was from a number I didn't recognize. "This is Jessica. Ethan wanted me to reach out. He thinks it would be good if we could all sit down and talk. Let me know when you're available." I stared at that message for a long time. Jessica was reaching out on Ethan's behalf. He couldn't even text me himself, couldn't pick up the phone and call his own mother. He'd sent his wife, the woman who'd humiliated me, to be the intermediary. I didn't respond. 3 days later, another text, this time from Ethan's number. "Mom, can we please talk? I miss you." 4 words. I miss you. Not I'm sorry. Not I was wrong. Not I should have stood up for you. Just I miss you. I typed and deleted a dozen responses. I wanted to tell him I missed him too. I wanted to tell him he'd broken my heart. I wanted to ask him how he could have let that happen. I wanted to ask him if he even understood what he'd done. Finally, I just wrote, "I need time." His response came immediately. "How much time?" And that made me angry. How much time? Like there was a deadline on my grief. Like I could schedule my healing around his convenience. I don't know, I typed back. As much as I need. Another week passed. Then, on a Tuesday evening, there was a knock on my door. I wasn't expecting anyone. Carol would have called first. When I opened it, Ethan was standing there. He looked terrible. His eyes were red and puffy, like he hadn't been sleeping. He'd lost weight. His clothes hung loose on him. For a moment, just a moment, my mother's instinct kicked in and I wanted to pull him inside, feed him, take care of him. But I stopped myself. "Hi, Mom," he said quietly. "What are you doing here?" I asked, not moving from the doorway. "I needed to see you. Jessica's at a work thing and I needed to see you." The fact that he'd come when Jessica was occupied told me everything I needed to know about the state of his marriage. "Can I come in?" he asked. I hesitated. Part of me wanted to slam the door in his face. Part of me wanted to throw my arms around him and forget everything that had happened. But I did neither. I just stepped aside and let him in. We sat in my living room, the same living room where Jessica had made those cutting remarks 2 years ago. The silence between us was heavy, suffocating. "I'm sorry," he finally said. I waited. I needed more than that. "I'm sorry for what happened at the wedding. I'm sorry for how Jessica treated you. I'm sorry for not standing up for you." "Are you?" I asked, and my voice was harder than I'd ever heard it. "Are you really sorry, Ethan? Or are you just sorry that it's uncomfortable now? Sorry that you feel guilty?" He flinched. "I am sorry. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you." "You didn't just hurt me," I said. "You humiliated me in front of everyone. You chose your wife over your mother on the most important day of your life. You made me feel like nothing, like I was worthless." "You're not worthless," he said, tears welling up in his eyes. "You're my mom. You're the most important person in my life." "Then why wasn't I in that front row?" I asked. "Why didn't you stand up for me when Jessica was cruel? Why did you let her erase me?" He didn't have an answer. Or maybe he did, but he couldn't say it out loud. The truth was, Jessica had more power over him than I did, and maybe she always would. "Things are hard," he admitted, "with Jessica. She's not who I thought she was." And there it was. It's been a year since that wedding. A year since I walked out of that church. Ethan and I talk now, but it's different. The easy closeness we once had is gone, replaced by something more careful, more fragile. He's still with Jessica, though I can see the cracks. He's learning the hard way that the life he thought he wanted comes with a price. I've learned something too. I've learned that loving someone doesn't mean losing yourself. I've learned that sacrifice without respect isn't love, it's exploitation. I've learned that sometimes the people we love most will disappoint us, and we have to decide if we're going to shrink ourselves to fit their narrative or stand tall in our own truth. I chose to stand tall that day, and even though it hurt, even though it still hurts, I don't regret it. If you're listening to this and you've experienced something similar, know that you're not alone. Your feelings are valid, your pain is real, and you deserve respect, even from the people you love most. If this story resonated with you, please leave a comment. Hit that like button. Subscribe for more real-life stories. And if you want to support this channel, consider leaving a super thanks. Remember, you matter. You deserve respect. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away. Thank you for listening.